Hi, friends. Today we were going to talk about the Dark Eldar. Unfortunately, though, they killed all my pals, captured me, and now they're going to torture me. Oh, well, that's just great. I certainly am in my most dire time of need. Hint, hint. Well, now this is just embarrassing. Hi, friends, back from the torture. Don't worry, my friends got better too. Anyways, though, what I alluded to earlier was one of the strongest, if not the strongest Space Marine chapters, and in my opinion, the most unique Space Marine chapter, the Legion of the Damned. These are the funky, badass, mysterious Space Marines with a literal burning vengeance who will show up to help turn the tide in the Imperium's most dire times of need. And I'm sure they were just busy doing something else earlier. Anyways, though, before we get any further, I must mention that the Legion of the Damned, by design, are mysterious and the exacts of their lore are not exactly concrete. So, there is a lot of in-lore conflicting information and unexplainable aspects. So, this video will have a lot of "this might be trues" and "well, we don't really knows." But anyways, let's go right into one of the most fascinating legions in the entire setting. The Legion of the Damned's damned legionnaires wear a distinct jet black armor, which is only illuminated by their even more distinct flames. Through some black magic trickery, no pun intended, their armor appears to quote unquote consume light and nothing except for their own flames can illuminate them. So it's kinda like that Phantom Black paint except even more extreme and not exclusive to some a-hole artist. In addition to the jet black armor and flames, they've also got a badass skeleton motif going for them. These three really adds to their spook factor and makes for a really cool look. And dare I say it, perhaps even the coolest look for any chapter. And yes, these guys are totally Ghost Rider Space Marines, which isn't a slight in my eyes. I'd love to see a Nick Cage Space Marine. But the Legion of the Damned isn't just about looking badass, they're also really great at being badass. The Legion of the Damned's defining trait is how they spawn into desperate battles seemingly out of nowhere and assist their fellow Imperials. The Legion appears in the most dire situations at the perfect moment to turn the tide of battle. The exact conditions of their arrival is unknown, but typically they will appear in critical moments, completely wreck shit until the Imperials are winning again, and then disappear as quickly as they came. And unlike traditional forces, they have an unexplainable mastery of warp travel and are able to move around the galaxy near instantaneously. The Legion of the Damned have been recorded on war zones inaccessible through warp travel, fighting in battles on opposite ends of the galaxy in impossible time frames, and even fighting in simultaneous battles in something called the astigmatin anomaly. This esoteric ability has led to some dark theories within the Imperium regarding the Legion's nature, origin, and motives, but more on that later. Adding to the mystery even more, however, is that no one can seem to talk to these Marines or even get recordings of their incredible feats, even if they had undoubtedly happened. The Inquisition, in particular, has long tried to gather more information on the mysterious Legion to little avail. Sensors and servo skulls set up to capture data on the elusive Legion either fail, record contradictory information, or their machine spirit straight up just gets traumatized from the encounter. Hey buddy, are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost or something, you poor thing. Stranger yet, many who have witnessed the Legion of the Damned in combat end up forgetting the details of the event in days or even hours. In many cases, guardsmen or even other Marines can only recall a burning center feel and the enemy forces just magically getting their hams steamed. In more extreme cases, cuckoo crazy events can just happen to tamper with Inquisitors' investigations of the Legion. Things like natural disasters, psychic anomalies, unexplained technical issues, and so on. So it seems to me that the Inquisition needs a Peter Parker type to get pictures of the Legion of the Damned man. But anyways, this is 40k and I know we're all fiending for some heretic stomping and bolter popping, so what tactics do the Legion of the Damned generally use? Well, that's the fun part. They're said to not really use any tactics other than kill the enemy real hard. And this usually works for them since they're a ghost legion who doesn't have to follow the lame-o rules of reality. So, since the Legion of the Damned has a knack for appearing in the right place at the right time, they can usually just use the strategy of kill them all. And Legion, damn it, they basically always succeed using this strategy. The Legion of the Damned are some of the most, if not the most elite Marines in the setting. Each Legionnaire is brutally efficient, and they're all said to be at least equivalent to veteran Space Marines in terms of skill. But often their efficiency in battle is far beyond other Marines, as each action a Legionary does is intentional and deadly. In addition, they have the unnatural ability to tank attacks that would usually be enough to fell Terminators, which, depending on how strong you choose to believe Terminator armor is, this makes them anywhere from nutty to super duper peanut mega mart nutty. Or in some instances they could just be straight up super crazy wholesale oops all nuts Costco nutty. And then, beyond their own prowess, their weapons are also enhanced beyond the standard Marine equivalents. Their bolter shots burn the atmosphere as they rip towards their enemies, their blades ignite their victims as they cleave and stab weak spots, and they have an abundance of flamers and meltas to help others dress as hot as they do. How sweet of them. In addition, these Marines have action movie logic where they have bottomless mags, shooting hundreds of rounds and not reloading a single time in an entire engagement. So, just imagine how horrifying it must be for you and your besties to be on the cusp of winning a battle when an entire legion of ghosts just spawns in out of nowhere, silent other than the cackles of flame and booms of bolters. They're seemingly invincible. Every move they make kills a dude or 10, and plus, they're on fire and have spooky, scary skeletons painted all over their impossibly dark armor. Then, they just disappear in the wake of burning corpses. Bad ass! But let's finally discuss their potential origin stories. The Legion of the Damned is once again very unique to traditional chapters and legions, as their true origin is unknown. However, there are some in-universe theories and community theories. The first theory I'll discuss is that the Legion of the Damned are simply the Lost Firehawks chapter. These dudes were a relatively normal chapter, other than having near Lamenter's level luck due to their origins in the Cursed Founding. However, one day, these fellows went to fight some Eldar and went missing in the warp. So, the theory states that the Firehawks became corrupted in the warp and mutated into a state between life and death. Although they were still completely loyal, they opted to operate in secret and outside of Imperial command structures, since the Imperium would certainly execute them for their mutations. Then, theory number 2 is that the Legion of the Damned are the vengeful spirits of those killed in the Istvan drop site massacre. Scholars who believe this theory believe that the Marines killed in the massacre were so pissed off from the betrayal that their spirits lingered, and either through the Emperor, other Marine librarians, or simple mass belief, their spirits were able to manifest into the Legion of the Damned to exact their burning vengeance and protect the Imperium. Expanding on this, some Imperials believe that beyond the drop site victims, any Marine who is great enough can transcend the mortal plane and become a Ghost Legionnaire. So, it's like Don't Fear the Reaper, except instead of transcending death through extreme love, it's extreme hate. Thank you, very 40k. Expanding off of that expansion, some people in the community like to believe that a ghost of Ferrus Manus leads the Legion as their Ghost Primarch. And I think that's a really cool fan theory that I also had canon. But there's nothing in actual lore confirming that, so keep that in mind. And then finally, the last prominent in-universe theory is that the Legion of the Damned are simply hallucinations. This theory is based on the fact that everyone in 40k except for blanks have some latent psychic power. So, in times of extreme crisis, sometimes the Imperial faith and hope is so powerful within the warriors of the Emperor that the combined psychic presence actually becomes enough to manifest the Legion of the Damned in one way or another, be it an actual legion spawning or the doomed soldiers getting so possessed by their hope that they pull off impossible feats in battle. These last two theories would essentially make the Legion of the Damned loyalist demons, which would explain their paradoxical existence and unnatural abilities while also being pretty badass. And then all three of these account for their elusive nature, ability to be wherever they're needed, and the damned part of their name. As for what I think, Personally, I feel it would be a little bit lame for the Legion of the Damned to be just a Space Marine chapter whose GPS pooped out and they got some wacko mutations. So, my headcanon is a mix of the latter two theories, since I think it's a lot more badass for a Legion of the Damned to be an actual legion of burning, vengeful spirits made manifest. I think it makes sense for them to have started out as the Isfan dropside victims, and then afterwards, any other especially vengeful Marines were able to join their ranks after death. Then, in regards to summoning the Legion, I really like the idea of them being hope and terror manifested as Imperial demons. Imperials in extremely dire situations, unintentionally psychically summoning them through faith is really metal and super on brand for the setting. But, that being said, I really extremely super duper do not want GW to ever confirm any theory regarding the Legion of the Damned's true nature. I am firmly in the camp that thinks the myths and mysteries of 40k really enrich the setting and that explaining every little thing paradoxically robs the setting of depth. Things like the Lost Primarchs, War in Heaven, and Legion of the Damned are so much cooler as legends to be speculated on. Likely no explanation could ever live up to the hype of these mythological events and entities. Hell, I don't even think that the Horus Heresy should have been explored to the level it has been. Are there cool stories and moments from that series? Yes, of course, I would hope so after 50 books, but I personally think it's a lot cooler as a biblical event where almost no modern Imperial, or us, actually knows exactly what transpired. And of course, in lore, the heresy is a biblical event in which the details are unknown, but on a metatextual level, I think that the unknown is extremely fascinating, and it opens the door to more creativity and discussion for fans of the setting. But, I mean, cat's out of the bag now, so one might as well enjoy the 50 plus book Primarch Fest. After all, it does have some of the best Warhammer moments in it. But, please oh please, never ever explain the Legion of the Damned. Anyways though, that was the Legion of the Damned. This is probably the most unique chapter of them all, and they're so cool for it. I really like these dudes. Just the premise of an army of the damned exacting their burning vengeance on the world is just so fucking cool, man. Or even them being the Legion of the Damned in the sense of them being a legion for those who are damned is really cool. Plus, they have one of the coolest aesthetics of all Space Marines. Hell, no pun intended, even the idea of Imperial demons is extremely cool. No matter how you spin it, the Legion of the Damned is extremely cool. But anyways, let me know what you think about the Legion of the Damned in the comments below. What do you think their origin is? Are they the coolest thing ever? Or whatever else? Also, something interesting I thought and want to know some opinions on. Who do you guys think are a more powerful force pound for pound? The Legion of the Damned or the Grey Knights? The Knights are often touted as the bestest, most elitist elites of all time. But the Legion of the Damned literally breaks the rules of reality, so who's to say? And I don't even necessarily mean in a head-on battle. I'm sure the Knight's psychic powers would provide at least some advantage, but like, if you were about to horribly die, which chapter would wreck more shit in general? Plus, these two do share a lot of similarities, being extremely esoteric, extremely elite, and kind of a shit hit the fan chapter. The Damned just aren't dicks about it. But anyways, thank you for watching, and humongo thanks to the patrons who help support the channel. And as always, please like, comment, subscribe, and consider sharing to all your damned buddies. Thanks. The dichotomy of the Holy Paladins and the Army of the Damned is also really cool. It's also funny that, ironically, seeing the literal hellish ghost army bodes better for your future than the knights in shining armor.